So let me introduce you to Erin. And Erin Bohn is right here with us. Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hello. This is fun and exciting times, right? I'm still not I would think you'd be used to Zoom by now, but I'm still not there yet. I'm doing good. Hi. So my technical name is Erin Huelskamp Bohn. So if you've looked at my piece, I don't know if it's been sent out yet. If you've looked at my piece, you'll see that on it says Erin Huelskamp. So that's what I go by as a composer. And then I guess socially around town, I'm Erin Bohn. That's my married name. So my actual legitimate name is a mashup of the two. So sorry to confuse you all.
No,
um,
no, no. Well, let me tell about her. She serves as artistic director of Anchor Opera, and also she is the director of traditional worship orchestra music at Asbury United Methodist Church. She also has served as artistic director for Sunshine City Opera Company, directed several plays in there, several operas, and also with Opera Britannica and Bluebeard Castle. Um, and she also have performed at St. Petersburg Festival, Tampa Bay Flute Ensemble, and the Madison City Community Orchestra Flute Ensemble. He have served as a faculty member of music theory at Boston College and as a visiting lecturer at Bentley University, the Boston Conservatory. She holds a master's in music from Boston Conservatory and a bachelor's of music of the University of Missouri of Columbia. She is not only a wonderful composer, as you saw with her composition, but also a flautist, and director. So we are very fortunate to have her here in Huntsville. And tell us what brought you to Huntsville.
sure. So that's a really good question. It was a kind of a family decision. So my husband, well, it's kind of a long story. We were in Boston for a long time, and then we went to have one child, and God blessed us with two. So I have twins. They are going to be 6 next month. So we lived in Boston, and it was too expensive to have twins in Boston. So we moved to Florida, and we were there for a while. And then we kind of decided together, my husband and I, that we wanted to be someplace that was a tech hub, but that was also cost friendly. And so here we ended up in Huntsville. And it's just been a wonderful experience so far for me. I feel very blessed to be here and very, very grateful to be working with you guys. So thanks for having me.
How long have been you been here in Huntsville?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I think we're coming up on 3 years almost now. Yeah, so two and a half, 3 years. It goes so fast. It
It
goes
does.
so fast.
Yes. We're
um,
very, very fortunate to have you and be part of this community. You are already engaged on Opera Encore and playing everywhere, playing obviously with your church. So it's wonderful to have good musicians that are invested in the community. So thank you. And then talk us about a little bit of your compositional style with are you have been composing more orchestra music, opera, or choral music?
Sure. So the thing I primarily write is music that is theatrical. So ironically enough, that doesn't necessarily mean for voice, though I am very drawn to voice because I feel voice is probably the most theatrical of the musical instruments, if you will. But that said, I've written pieces like one of the funniest pieces I wrote was for singing cellist and TikTok clock. And it's a piece where the cellist doesn't actually have to be a singer, but they have to be willing to sing in the piece, and they play with a TikTok clock. And there's a lot of theatrical elements in it where you have to kind of explore your breathing techniques, which you kind of see a little bit in this piece that you're looking at now. But you explore the breathing technique, explore the atmosphere of the piece. Like I'm very interested in more than just the harmonic and the melodic elements of music. I'm interested in what kind of story does it tell, what kind of atmosphere does it create for the audience. And you can see this in some of this in this piece as well. So that's kind of something that you're going to see throughout my piece, but really the theatrical element, I cannot seem to write a piece that's not theatrical. I think I have like one piece, and it was probably a challenge from a composition professor. um, I everything that comes out of me musically is theatrical in nature. So this is as well. Cosmic Cycle very much tells a story, and I think if you read the program notes and if you look at the piece, it's very evident that that's the case. So.
Yes. But even though we wrote the program notes, we would like to know what how that started and what came that idea of number one, using Walt Whitman's poem, and why space, why, especially with the started song, when you learn from the astronomer, um, how that came about.
So I'm not sure exactly how I found it. I love poetry, so I read a lot of it, especially now that I have young kids. It's really fun to explore poetry with them. And we're homeschooling, of course, because, what can you do in these times? But I read a lot of poetry. And so I was drawn to this poem in particular. I'm very interested in soul searching. So like when I'm reading any kind of book, really, the genre of choice for reading is going to be that which is about diving into yourself. Like, who are you? How did you come to be? I like things that are about God. I like things that are about the Bible. I like things that are about understanding yourself and your habits. And I feel like this poem, the Walt Whitman, talks about that a lot. Like, you think you know what's going on. The poem's about, for me, it was about sitting in a space where you're trying to understand the world, and you're thinking about all this stuff that's very abstract, and this math and this just like very abstract random ideas, and then all of a sudden you look up and you realize, life isn't about this. Life is about the actually experiencing life, like actually experiencing the stars. And so you literally get up and you leave to go see the stars. Like, forget the math, let's go see the stars. And there was just something in that really resonated with me. And I don't know, it still does. It still does. And I feel like soul travel, I mean, it was a companion to that, and in a whole nother way. Like, now you're outside looking at the stars and you're still trying to figure out what life is. You're still trying to figure out who you are, right? And I don't know, I wish I could tell you that I could just figure all that out, but I don't think I'm ever going to. But I sure do love searching, and that's what this is about. Who are we? What are we doing here? And what are we trying to figure out? And how can we experience life? That's what these pieces are about.
Mhm. When we met and we talked about the commissioning the piece, we were searching for a poem that was kind of a complementary of when the learn astronomer. How can you found this specifically soul travel by Connie Martin Wan?
So I'm sorry, I wish I knew which of your members, but one of your members was kind enough to send me a couple of poems that she felt kind of went with the Whitman. And I read through a few of those, and I did a few other things too. I read some other pieces, but this one just jumped out to me. Again, it's the same thing. It tells the same sort of story of searching for oneself. And I just felt like it went hand in hand. It continued the story. And again, with having young kids right now, I couldn't think of space and the stars without thinking of the traditional Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So of course, there's elements of that all over this piece, different parts of it. Some of them very obvious, and some of them were kind of twisted and manipulated. But I think the two together really created atmosphere and told the story that I was looking to tell. And I felt really excited because I was able to connect with Connie. Whenever you're a composer setting a living person's piece of writing, you have to write to them and make sure that they're cool with it. Some people are not, believe it or not. And it turns out she's in Hawaii. We invited her. I don't know that she can come. She's not as technologically proficient, she said to me, as she would like to be. So, but she's in Hawaii of all places. So I was talking to this person in Hawaii about her poem and what it meant to her, and asking permission. I was kind of begging. I was like, please, can I set your poem? And she's a real sweetheart. And she said, yeah, go for it. Just make sure you tell everyone that I wrote the poem. And I was like, absolutely. I'm not going to try to claim that. It's great. And so just everything worked out. It was fortuitous. It was kind of meant to happen, if you will.
Yeah.
So.
Well, she just sent me an email saying that she will not be able to join us, but she told me a little bit about her, and she was a flight attendant. So one of her, moments of writing was about that, and it's perfect. When I read the poem, it's like, wow. I wonder, in all her traveling, seeing of the stars and seeing the sky, and just thinking about the traveling and seeing the stars, and how mesmerized she is about the universe itself and how small we are. So that was very interesting. And yeah, the combination of both poems into the music, creating very aleatoric kind of texture in your compositions is very intriguing in the way that you connect those, and how you can set the text, and but also spoken text, and music underneath, and that weaving kind of texture, I would say, in your poems is very fascinating. For me as a conductor, is fun to put it together. But tell us a little bit more of uh, what exactly do you want? And I know several of our members were asking a lot of questions the other day when we just starting looking at these pieces. By the way, we just this is our second time that we're looking at it, but I know they have some questions, and obviously, like, let's go back to when I heard the learner's astronomer. Right in section 1, you have the sopranos speaking the text in different tempos. Tell us about that, how you want to approach this.
Um, so the way I imagine this, again, I think of it like a story. And so it's almost like, obviously it's not a story that's happening where you see somebody walking across the stage. But it's kind of like something that's taking place in your head. So if you can imagine your thoughts, have you ever been in a place where you're trying to process something and you just have thoughts just coming and coming and coming, and they layer on top of each other, and you can't stop it. Maybe it's like something that happens when you're having some insomnia almost, that kind of thing. That's the kind of experience I was hoping to create for someone. Like, that's one way of thinking of it. Another way of thinking of it would be like being in a lecture room, and people just are all talking, and sometimes you hear one person jump out a little bit, and sometimes you hear another person jump out a little bit, but in general you have kind of a loud, lots of people talking sound. So that's the way, that's kind of what I was going for at the beginning, this kind of feeling of being in a space with a lot of people having a lot of things to say, but none of it really stands out. It's all kind of a mass cacophony of sound, trickling in, of course, one at a time.
Okay. Um, and the same thing happened in page 2. Well, I'm just putting some measure numbers, measure 8. Same thing happening there, which is just continue mainly with in their own tempo, but kind of trying to keep the tempo, right? In that particular.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have to just start speaking and really hope that they can follow you until you get to 11. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Any questions about this, choir?
Yes, I had a question about, for example, at measure 8, since we're right there, the plus symbol in measure 8, where you want us to go through a series of vowels. Is that just like all the vowels? Is that some particular vowels?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that I was as clear as I could be in this, and this is great. I love it when people ask questions that can make it obvious to me that I can make things more clear. So thank you. When I wrote that, I was actually imagining the sounds that you get from a Tuvan throat singer. Have you ever listened to throat singing? It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So they kind of pitch their voice in their nose a little bit. And then as you shift through the different vowels, you get these overtones that occur above, right? So that's kind of what we're going for. So I gave Dr. Hacker, I gave her 2 different recordings of this movement. And one of them doesn't do that as well as the other. So one of them, you could really hear the throat singing sound. The harmonics is really what I was going for there. And the other one you cannot. So you can listen and hear the difference. But as you shift through the sounds, if you pitch your voice further forward into your nasal area, you can create a sort of throat singing overtone sound. And that's what I was going for. And then you can play with the overtones by shifting through the vowels. If you haven't listened to Mongolian or Tuvan throat singing, I highly recommend it. It's absolutely fascinating, and recordings don't do justice to it as doing it live, which we can't do right now, but recordings will definitely give you an idea of what I was imagining. So.
Okay, good question. Any other questions so far?
Well, I was going to ask about the basses on page 3. The same sort of speaking thing. The basses enter together, and we are to say it quickly through measure 21 until measure 22. So there are a lot of words there. So we have to say it really quickly. And should we be expected to do it more or less in unison then? Or is each of us like doing it as fast as we can? And yet, have them be understandable or,
This is another good question. I never imagined it being so fast that you literally had to make it through every single word. So this is, again, another place that would be really good for me to specify that. I think the idea is to speak at a comfortably quick pace. So don't think that you need to be the speaker who used to do the commercials, what are they, like the micro machines or something like that, commercials that were so fast. Am I dating myself now? I might be dating myself. But the point is, you don't have to speak so fast that nobody can understand you. Just speak quickly, kind of as I am now, as I naturally do. I speak very quickly naturally. And so just speak it quickly. And if you get through it all, that's great. And if you don't, that's fine too. No stress.
And we would not be in unison, right? We just
no,
kind of
yeah,
random,
not in unison.
each of us. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I think at this particular point is just wait mainly a little bit for the tenors to deliver the text, the pitch text, then enter with the sopranos, just giving a time in there, just a calculation, I will say, for given the entrance for the sopranos to enter, so we can be on tempo, particularly the sopranos and the tenors at that point. So, okay, any other questions?
Yeah, is it based on section 4 or section, what is it, measure 18, 19? Is it based talking or just whispering?
Speaking. So talking.
Mm-hmm. As I said, we haven't covered the whole thing yet because this is our pretty much second meeting. So we are discovering as that's why I brought you right now at the beginning. So
it's different. It is, like, if you're not used to doing some of these unusual things, it's a little different.
We did one for Holland Hobson, and it was on the shape of a beehive, and it very aleatoric as well. So we sang one line, and then another person entered another line, and it was just continue doing exactly like a beehive, and then you can hear the beehive. So we have done some of these. J.D. Frisell, we did one from J.D. Frisell as well. They have a little section of aleatoric music. It's just,
it's fun because as a choir, and this is similar for an orchestra too, like when you play, or a band, a wind ensemble, when you play, you're used to playing as a group, as a unit, right? Like you are the choir. Well, this piece requires you to sometimes be the choir, but sometimes you're you, and you get to speak like you as an individual in the choir, right? So you get to explore. Like the point is to explore not just the group sound, which is incredibly important and something I'm sure you guys work on all the time, but how can you be the group sound and also you, right? Like kind of like the piece is asking you to explore the universe. Like, can we explore this concept of are we the choir, or are we individuals? Are we both? Like, how can we do that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That is what fascinates me about this particular piece. And thank you for writing something that challenges us as a singer and to think, not just to say sounds, but to explore the human voice, to explore the drama, as you mentioned, and bring something completely different. So not even modern, because it probably happened before in different places, but for us as a concept of singing together and singing that this kind of music that is unique is I think rewarding for everyone. So thank you. So let's go back to soul travel a little bit. And same concept. We're looking at the vowels in here. Is like close U and then close E.
Yeah. And so this again, I'm trying to create an atmosphere. This is like an atmosphere of stars, if you will. And I think you can probably hear that, but the sh needs to stay the whole time. And I don't know if it'll work. I can try to do it with this thing. I don't know if it'll work, but like a sort of like kind of sound. And I'm a flutist, so I can do that for a really, really, really long time because we sit around doing those kinds of exercises for fun. But if you can't, take a breath and then keep going.
Yeah, it's almost like the sound of the wind itself.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you got that tenor basis. When you go to the twinkle, 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 and the rest of the section, we're talking about right here on measure 22, 21, 22. The section, the middle sections, you want a very legato, and then with a lot of contrast between the sopranos, right? Both the staccato.
Yes. Yeah. So the staccato should almost be almost like no vowel. I don't want to say no vowel because that's not cool, but like almost no vowel, right? Like you really want to get that twinkle, like, yeah, very percussive.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions on this movement? Choir?
What is the purpose of the fermata on the second measure of soul travel?
Oh, that's so it's you guys shouldn't all be singing at once again. So keep the rhythm. So keep the twinkle, 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 but enter one at a time. And then the fermata there is to give the conductor freedom to decide how long you guys do that. I suggested a bit of a length someplace. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't.
7 seconds.
Yeah.
In one, and then you have 15 seconds. I think it's a little bit. I see a little 7 on top of the alto. So
oh yeah, so the 7 indicates the instructions. I think the fermata is just, music. I think musical instructions. I love the way the Baroque era thinks of musical instructions, right? So they give you instructions and then they say, okay, we'll make it pretty, right? So they ornament it, add your own ideas to it. So this is a place where you have a little bit of that. Like, so the conductor's in charge, and she gets to decide how long you create that world for the audience. How long do we need it after hearing the end of When I Heard the Learned Astronomer? I mean, to be honest, I've never had the piece done before, so I'm not 100% certain, but I'm sure you guys will discover it.
I have a question. In that same measure 2, so the altos are supposed to enter one at a time? That's okay.
Yeah.
So do we enter on the quarter note so that we're all singing the same pitch at the same time, or do we enter off the beat, so to speak, so that
you enter out of time?
Okay.
So don't worry about either of those things, just enter. And the only thing I ask is that you keep the pitches and keep the rhythm, right? But once you enter, like if you enter a little faster than the person next to you, that's fine. If you enter a little slower than the person next to you, that's fine. Just keep it consistent so we get the sort of 8th note fifth sound.
Okay, yes, the fifth sound. So
Mhm.
we're not all singing C at the same time and then G at the same time. We might be.
No, but the only sounds you should have, the only pitches you should have are the C and the
Yeah.
G.
Okay. Thank you.
So it might sound like the same almost, except for you're saying the words. And yeah, it's going to be a sort of undulating sound, if that makes sense. That's what I'm imagining. We'll see.
Yeah, it's like rolling a dice. You enter, one person enter, the other enter. It's just different tempos, but yes, keeping the pitch.
That'll sound a lot like when we used to try and sing on Zoom.
Have you thought about doing something like that, or even a piece singing with masks? Because
Oh,
it's so
goodness.
different. As an effect.
Sure. Yeah. It could be fun.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this piece, we're not going to perform it until we don't meet together, because obviously cannot. But we will study really, really closely. And as soon as we have the opportunity to rehearse together in person, because obviously I cannot hear anybody.
Mhm.
And then until we don't rehearse completely well, we will not perform it. So hopefully by maybe the fall, we will be able to do that. Crossing, get your vaccines, please.
Yes.
So we can have that. So we can perform these wonderful pieces and give the opportunity to Erin to listen to it, and for the community to enjoy these wonderful pieces. Very new, and we love doing new music. We have done how many pieces? Maybe 20, 20 or more new compositions so far. We're very excited, and we're definitely excited to perform your pieces soon. Any other questions do you have for Erin? Anything else you want to tell us about those pieces?
Um, sure. I mean, I can talk as long as you want me to.
Yes,
So,
yes, please.
um, I hope it's clear. I'm sure there's questions. Look, guys, if there's questions, just ask. I'm happy. I mean, communication is key. It's a huge part of music. Like we're here to communicate through music. So, don't hesitate to reach out. I would say one of the things that's important to me, you'll notice in Soul Travel, but it's there, and when I heard the Learned Astronomer as well. There's a lot of collisions or things running into each other or people entering slightly off, that kind of thing. As performers, I just ask that you do that as intentionally as possible, right? So make it clear that it was on purpose and not an accident. Oh, we were sloppy. Oops. Like, no, make it intentional. And there's not a lot of room for silence in my pieces. And so I would say don't add it in. Definitely make sure that things intentionally run into each other. And I was looking at that even at measure 20 or rehearsal 26, for instance. There's a couple fermatas there, right? So we're talking about ethereal bands without time. And so, of course, we have some playing with time there, the fermatas and things of the sort, right? There's a lot of alliteration, or there's a lot of expression of the words in the music, written into the music, which I hope is clear to you guys as you listen. But I see that I wrote a fermata, and then I wrote a second fermata for the solo soprano to enter. And, I don't think, even though it looks like there would be a space there, I would try not to put a space there. Keep them as collided as possible. Keep them as have the solo soprano enter on the cutoff of the word time, that kind of thing. So be really careful about a silence. Unless it's intentionally written in there, don't add it in. For my music anyways. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to point out. You'll note when we get to 44, so the end of this piece, I was writing this and we got big and we're exploring galaxies and the grandeur of the galaxy and projective stars. And I was like, well, goodness, where do we go after this? Like, what happens? And I realized as I was writing it she brings it back to herself. The poem brings it back to I'm coming back to me. Well, where did we go? We went out to the stars. I think the idea to talk about to experience meditation, and this is almost a meditation in essence. I don't know, there's something almost divine that came to me about that. I was like, wow, where did that come from? It was a gift. When you get to 44, it's really important that bell, whatever it is, whether it's a chime, a bell, a strike, whatever it is, interrupts what you were doing and surprises the audience. I don't want them to know that it's coming. There would be no reason to think that it is. You guys are singing an a cappella piece. But I think I just want to express again that it's really important that nobody knows about it until it happens. And then when it happens, it's such a surprise. It's such a something. If you've ever meditated, if you've ever done a prayer where you're really out there thinking, and then all of a sudden you have to come back to yourself, that bell, that kind of sound can really mean something. And I think it's really important to the piece. And then the other thing in Soul Travel in particular is that the average distance from the earth to the sun and all the things related to that keep coming back, right? So this is a mental journey. This is I'm trying to sort all this out. I'm trying to meditate. I'm trying to breathe. I'm trying to be centered. I'm trying to figure things out. And I can't control my thoughts. I can't stop myself from coming back to these other things. And I love the fact that the poem doesn't give you the answers, right? She talks about the answers that she sought, the answers she found, but she doesn't tell you what they are. And so that to me was really powerful. And that's why at the end, even though we end in a way that's very, I feel like homecoming in a sense, especially as a Christian, it's very homecoming. I still can't get these answers out of my head, these questions out of my head. They're still there, right? And so I think it's important to recognize that as you continue to explore some of the material that comes from When I Heard the Learned Astronomer in Soul Travel. Because from the get-go, both of the pieces, they just have this sort of driving idea that we're trying to escape that we never can. And I feel like that's life, right? I mean, we all have that. There's something about us that there's something for everyone that we can't escape, right? And that's kind of what this is. Only in this person, for this person's perspective, it's astronomy, like these mathematical equations. It's life coming at you. I don't know. I just thought that. I hope that's clear in the piece. I tried to make it clear. If it's not, hopefully me saying it will also make it clear. So I'm really excited that you guys are learning it. Thank you so much.
Let me ask you about the bell. So on that is mainly on a strike. It can work on you mentioned like it has to be just a strike, or has to be maybe like a ringing bell. Just let it ring.
Yeah, so if you have a handbell, especially the kind that kind of like you kind of ring like that and let it ring, yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, and then they'll put the when you move it like that, it gives it the vibrato, right? And that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Any other question?
I was just going to make a comment that I really like how the second poem supports your idea of the science, but also kind of being out the phrase, the speed of thought. Just like there are all those mathematical equations of the speed of light, C equals, and the speed of thought, that really stood out. I thought that is perfect for what you're trying to convey there. So excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, I felt very pleased. I mean, I really do feel like, I mean, like when you create something like this, sometimes, I don't know, you just feel guided. And so thank you. Yeah.
Well, we are very, very grateful to you for accepting this commission and for writing for us this wonderful piece. We cannot wait to perform it. We are looking forward to learn it really well. And for sure, we will have probably a lot of questions when we get more deep into the study of the piece, because we want to do it as justice as much as we can. And having you around, that's something amazing, because we would like, when finally we come and rehearse in person, we definitely will bring you back so you can tell us more and hear what you're, be part of the process, be part of the creation process, because the creation process hasn't having this is just started.
Mhm.
It's until we perform it that we finally end up that final product, and we are so glad that we're collaborating, and we're making your song, your cosmic cycle happen. So thank you for your talent.
Thank you.
Well, we are very, very happy to have you, and thank you again for being with us, Erin. We're looking forward to work with your piece, and thank you so much for your talent and your time.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you guys. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to be in a space again where we get to actually make music together. I really can't. And I really do believe very firmly that each time a piece is performed, it's unique to that group and it's unique to that time. So I can't wait to see what you guys bring to this, because that's like Dr. Hager just said, that's like the other half of the equation. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Erin. Thank you.